Christopherson from Husker 24/7 joins us on this Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good. When you were when they were in Mankato, did you ever go see the Vikings practice in Mankato?
No, never have.
Have you been to an NFL training camp?
I've played disc golf right around where the Chiefs were training. They were training that very day, and I was playing disc golf at a very high level, but I didn't actually get inside the ropes.
That might be the most Brian Christopherson answer to any question ever. God bless you, man. That was so good. That was so good. So did it distract your game? You were playing at a high level. You made it sound like maybe something derailed it. Or did you finish strong?
No, I played fine.
Okay, good.
I forget where that is. Where is that?
St. Joe?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. They had a nice little disc golf course right by it.
What were you doing there? Were you in like a tournament or something?
No.
Because if you're not in St. Joe to watch the Chiefs, what the hell are you doing in St. Joe?
I don't remember what it was. It was several years back.
Okay.
But it was I was there, and there was commotion, and a lot of people were wandering up. There was even tailgating going on outside. But I did not actually go inside the training camp. But yeah, that's the closest I've got. So that's my winding answer about that.
Nick, not real familiar with St. Joe. Chris and Kate's ice cream. Thank me later.
Okay.
So Nick brought this up, and I agreed with him. We were both there on Saturday night, along with yourself. It was kind of like seeing an NFL training camp. Like if you go to St. Joe now, it is, a lot of fans, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts. I really, really enjoyed it. What was a takeaway or two that you were not expecting that you saw on Saturday night?
Good question. Honestly, it's the DBs, and obviously we knew going in. There's so many names that they have to choose from, and someone's got to emerge. But right before we went out there, of course, Matt Rule did like a 10 to 15-minute deal with the media, and he was talking about that competition, and he was asked specifically about Sire Wright, and we're not dismissing Sire Wright by any means, but he jumped into the conversation with the names of Amari Sanders and Larry Tarver as just young guys who are pushing, and of course Jeremiah Charles. So that was kind of fresh in my mind because I was ripping out that content, and then just as I published the story while sitting in the stand, I see a ball get tipped and Amari Sanders picks it off, and you see Jeremiah Charles. Of course, Bly Hill's not out there right now, but he's working with the top unit. Tommy Hill was also held out that particular day, but that was just really interesting to see it with your own eyes. Like, okay, these are your main guys here, and the fact that the Miami crew of like Ja'Cory Barney, Willis McGahee, Amari Sanders, and Larry Tarver have all like hit the ground running is really encouraging. Because I think Nebraska fans are maybe a little snake bit still from the Frost era, where there was a lot of Florida guys who came in, but they kind of left just as quickly. And I'm not saying all those guys are going to play right away or anything like that. I think Ja'Cory will, but that was something that stuck out to me. And then just it's a crisp practice format they have. They didn't mess around, and they got after it with no fluff at all until they had Terrence Knighton try to catch punts at the end, but that was fun.
Okay, speaking of punt returns, not necessarily involving the coaches and linemen, but I know that's a big part of the conversation going into the season. Gary and I were talking about the kicking situation, and we'll get your thoughts on that here in a moment as well. But as far as the return game, anybody out there surprise you that they had working in the rotation of doing any type of punt returns, kick returns?
Not really. IGC might get first crack at it. He's kind of the veteran hand there. I think there's a lot of intrigue around someone like Ja'Cory Barney, right, possibly doing it. And we're, of course, influenced by the fact that the one time he touched the ball, he would have taken it to the house if he didn't think Tristan Alvano was on his team, both wearing a gray, he's wearing a gray jersey. So I think there's kind of that eagerness and that hope, like maybe he's that guy that can bring a little zip. But no one surprised me back there. Sire Wright was back there too, catching a few.
Right.
So that's interesting. But Emmett Johnson, that's basically our group of guys. I kind of would favor Garcia Castaneda until proven otherwise. But they've got a couple weeks if a young guy shows that he's really confident back there and he can do it like it's just something he was born with.
Mhm.
That's always the key about being a punt returner. You got to have that sort of instinct like DeMornay had. We always use him as the example, but for fair reason, where you just knew like that this guy, since he was 5 years old, knew how to do this. So it's always that question with like a freshman who wants to do it. Do you have that sort of extra thing that is required that you just have no fear back there, because it is a job that you have to have fearlessness with.
Right.
All I can think about watching Raiola is they have to protect him at all costs. I mean,
Yes.
they can't have him go down. But if he goes down, the quarterback room is better than it was last year. But we know what we have with QB1. What do you think? Because Harburg did some things I liked. Gramstad was kind of what I thought he was going to be. You can tell he played in a really good offense, and he has high football IQ. I also like that he could hit wide receivers in stride. When they get to the end of this month and they have to make a decision on, well, if Dylan goes out, we got to have a quarterback in there. It's going to be what separates who is the backup to Raiola this year between those two, in your opinion?
I tend to think Harburg because of I've heard that Gramstad's actually pretty good on his feet, and a better athlete than you might know. But Harburg's running ability and what you might be able to get done with that might be a separating part to me. I kind of walked away thinking, like, okay, there's that gap that was expected between 1 and 2, and then I also see a gap between 2 and whoever's next, and maybe like someone like Gramstad, who has all that experience, can really put it together over the next couple of weeks. But I kind of left Saturday with like, okay, it's Raiola, then it's Harburg, and then it's like, I don't know yet. Like that's how I felt about it. But how you began that question is the right part. You got to protect the freshman at all costs. That's going to be huge. This is like that time of year we saw, someone go down Saturday, and we'll see what the next few days bring. But this is that time where you hold your breath. Like there's no good news that can come out, right? Of the next week. Like they can get better as a team, but as far as us on the outside, like what headlines and stuff, this is that time of camp. It just always is where there's something, and it's always, you got to work around it, and you're going to get challenged with your depth at all spots. And so quarterback is one area, but everywhere, that's why Matt Rule, no one should ever scoff at it when he's talking about all 120 guys basically, and like you got to be ready, because at some point we might be turning to you. And we saw that at running back last year with Emmett Johnson. Like at this time a year ago, he's 4th or 5th. So we got to always remember that with every position we're talking about.
That's exactly where I want to go next. I brought it up earlier about Gabe Ervin looks good, body wise looks good, looks a little bit more trim. Emmett Johnson, I don't think there was any real surprise. He still looks the part. I want to get your thoughts though on Dante Dowdell. And the only reason I bring him up, we know what the conversation was when he transferred to Nebraska, but also the type of spring he had. He had a decent spring game, but watching just individual drills, and maybe it's just how he goes about it, there does seem to be explosiveness there. There does seem to be a twitch there. You watch him in team drills too. There's something very interesting about him that you feel he can still be a big part of this. Where are you at with him as far as where Dante Dowdell is trending when it comes to what type of role, how many carries he could possibly get, if all things continue to move in that direction?
I'm intrigued. And then the question is, how well can he pick up all the other parts, the pass pro and all those things that sort of go beyond the drills. Like next Saturday, I know they're going to have a scrimmage, and that's the one where you'd love to see him, like take that big step where whatever he's asked to do, there's an understanding. He's not that far behind the other guys and knowing what to do. That's what Emmett Johnson did so well last year, is he was growing in those areas beyond just the stuff that catches our eye first, like, oh, here he is with the ball. How's he run with the ball? Like he picked up on all the other things behind the scenes, even while he was that fourth or fifth guy. So then they stuck him in against like Michigan, and he picks up a pass pro on his first play and impresses the heck out of everybody. That's the step like that Dowdell or any of those guys have to show Quentin Ives if he's going to make a move. But you're right. Like just looking at him, running the drills they do, like you wouldn't put him below any of the other guys almost, just how he looks, you know. So it's always that other part. How much can we trust you with every phase of the game beyond just the stuff in the first 6 stations of a practice in August, that sort of stuff.
Right.
Hey, I did take a picture. I did not tweet it out, but I was
good
on Saturday night because I was very curious, and I'm talking about James Williams. So I took a picture of him because I wanted to compare him to what we saw last year when the Northwestern game, all of a sudden, here's a guy, we don't even know who this is, but we kind of heard the backstory of how he made it to Nebraska, and he's out there sacking the quarterback. Well, he was a little bit skinnier. Now he's a thick 250, but he's still got those long arms, and he looks like what I think a pass rusher should look like. He was noticeable on Saturday night. But what do you think, BC, like what will be his true role on this defense?
I think he's going to continue to do what he did well last year as that third down presence, but I definitely think he can branch out from that because of what you're talking about with his added size. That was something he took seriously and knew he had to attack. And when you look at him, you would say he definitely did. So he was impressive. I mean, Jamari Butler, we know all about, but he's at 260 now, or he's listed 260. And he told us last week he was playing at 230. I mean, think of that in the Big Ten at the position he was playing. And so you look at like Jamari and you look at James Williams, and then you look at Javen Wright. My goodness.
Yes.
I mean, that's a guy who looks like a freak, as just far as like he gets some stuff done for you. And I think of like that trio of guys would be guys I would mention at the top of my list as far as, okay, what's going to take this defense from really good to, okay, they're great. They are making that play where strip sack type play where a guy picks it up, runs it back. Those type of plays on defense. Those are the guys who are dynamic enough that they can do it, that they can get to the quarterback and make those type of plays. And all are noticeably like in the best shape we've ever seen them. And it's easy, right? Like at first glance, as you say, like you're just like, man, that looks different than it did. So yeah, that's really encouraging. I'm excited to see James Williams this year. I'm really excited to see Jamari Butler. I just could go back to him all the time because, he led the team in TFLs and sacks a season ago. And I felt like he left several on the table. Like if you even go back and watch the Illinois game where he had a great game and that was a huge week for him as developing as a leader and as a player, I think he had a sack and a half, but he could have had like 3 or 4 if you watch that second half. He was just always there. And I think he has that next step in him, and we'll see if he can do it now with his new size and some of the attributes I think that have grown in him over the last year.
Did we forget too much about Turner Corcoran, where a lot of us were taken back on Saturday that he was where he was? Is that more about Turner Corcoran, what he's showing so far? Or is that maybe concern of Teddy Prohaska? How did you assess what you saw with Turner Corcoran as the left tackle at the ones?
Turner's definitely on my radar in a big way, and he better be on everybody's. I think he's going to be really important. Whatever shakes out, he's going to play key snaps for this team. He's versatile. I know if people are candid about it, that it's probably been a little uneven for how some people thought it might go for, he's a 4-star recruit and everything like that. Nebraska could really use him to stay healthy and have a Bryce Benhart year. Like Bryce had that last year. Everybody sort of thought they had the book written on him, and he showed that wasn't so. And this is an opportunity for Turner to do that. I was surprised how everybody talked over him all off season. Like I was always curious, like, okay, when's he getting back, and like, what's that mean to the competition? Like he's I understand that he needs to take his game up a notch, but when you're talking about a player who's competed in that many snaps at this level for you, that's a key dude. And so when Rule delivered the news in the early summer, like, yeah, he's doing all the stuff right now, I thought that was a headline that was underplayed, and I would double down on that right now. So he's very much going to be important to this team, and he's got to be good and hopefully durable, and Nebraska needs that.
And thankfully, he comes into this year healthy, so he's not already battling something. Because I agree with you, BC. He's gonna be required to play a lot of football this season. As always, appreciate it. Thank you for the little knowledge of what you've done in St. Joe.
Yeah,
we've got that marked down for further conversation.
Yeah, if anyone wants to go and challenge me at disc golf, they could. I'm up for it. I'm not great, but I can be competitive. So I don't like it as well as real golf, but I'll definitely tackle somebody.
We may have a match for you. So we have a listener, TL3, who is a big disc golf guy. Maybe a little match at Seymour Smith.
Oh, there you go. It's a good track.
Yeah, he would waste me, especially if he's going like TL3 sounds like a name that's built for like disc golf. Like he came up with that to intimidate.
I mean, is it more of your drive with the golf or the disc golf, or are you more of a short game guy?
I suck at the short game.
Okay. So you can win some long drive contests because I've seen those at breweries. One in Keg Creek, by the way, in Glenwood has they'll do a disc golf driving contest.
Yeah. This is one of those things where it's taking on a life of its own. I happen to be playing the one day by the training camp. I'm actually just very average. So I just want to get that on the record.
That's cool, though.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great week.
Yeah, thanks, guys.